Hey everyone, welcome back. Ever feel like that whole free will question is kind of a brain twister?
It's a big one, right?
It is. And get this, today we're diving into some surprising links between, well, cutting-edge brain science and the ideas of this philosopher, Rudolf Steiner.
Oh, interesting.
Right. Turns out he might have been onto something about where free will actually comes from.
And he was writing over a century ago, right?
Yeah,
Way ahead of his time.
exactly. He believed we could train our minds for more freedom, and now some recent brain imaging studies are saying, hey, he might have had a point.
It's wild how those connections pop up, right?
Totally. It's like finding this old, dusty treasure map and then realizing, wait, this actually leads somewhere real.
I like that analogy.
So for this deep dive, we're digging into an article all about this mind-blowing connection.
Definitely mind-blowing. The big idea, and this is where it gets kind of crazy, is that the latest research from these neuroscientists, Beeman and Kunios, seems to line up with what Steiner was saying about the source of free will.
And here's what blows my mind. Steiner, he figured this out through introspection, just looking inward at his own thinking.
Right, self-reflection, basically.
Yeah. And these neuroscientists, they're using high-tech fMRI scans to look directly inside the brain.
Completely different methods.
Totally.
Yeah.
But somehow, they seem to be finding the same thing.
It's like they were both examining the same intricate puzzle, just from totally different angles.
And yet their pieces fit together.
Exactly.
So these aha moments.
Yeah, those light bulb moments, right?
Exactly. You're stuck on a problem and then suddenly, boom, the solution just hits you.
It's like magic, but it's actually happening in your brain.
Well, Beeman and Kunios, they were studying those aha moments. And what they found is, well, pretty amazing.
Yeah, they had people solve puzzles, the kind that really make you think.
Right, those tricky ones.
And they were looking at what was happening in the brain while people were trying to solve them.
So using those fMRI scans we talked about.
Exactly, to see those aha moments in action.
Okay, so walk us through it. What's going on in our brains when we have one of those moments of sudden insight?
Well, right before the solution pops into your head, like right before that aha.
Okay.
They saw this burst of activity in a specific part of the brain, the right temporal lobe.
The right temporal lobe. Interesting.
And this burst of activity, it was a surge in something called gamma waves.
Gamma waves. Now, for those of us who aren't, brainwave experts,
Yeah.
what does that even mean?
Think of gamma waves like your brain shifting into high gear.
Oh,
They're linked to those moments of sudden understanding, those flashes of insight, exactly what we're talking about here.
so when those gamma waves are firing, that's when the aha moment hits.
It seems that way, which is where Steiner comes back into the picture.
Right, because he had some ideas about where those bursts of insight actually come from.
He did. Through his own introspection, Steiner identified what he called the conceptual realm.
The conceptual realm.
He believed this was like a space in our minds where those intuitive ideas come from, those flashes of understanding.
Okay, so are you saying those aha moments, those times when the answer just seems to appear out of nowhere, that could be our brains tapping into this conceptual realm that Steiner was talking about?
That's exactly what it looks like. And Steiner, he took it even further. He said these conceptual intuitions, that's what he called them, they're the only source of truly free action.
Hold on. So without those moments of insight, are we even really acting freely?
That's a big question, right?
It is. Are we all just running on autopilot most of the time?
That's what Steiner was getting at. He thought most of what we call free will, our reactions to things, our routines,
Right, our everyday stuff.
it's all influenced by external things or our own habits. Like we're driving down the same road every day. It might feel like we're in control, but are we really?
So how do we break free? How do we tap into this conceptual realm on purpose? How do we get more of those aha moments?
That is the million-dollar question. And this is where it gets even more interesting because we see this connection again between Steiner and modern neuroscience.
Another connection.
It turns out there's a kind of two-step process for accessing those moments of freedom.
2 steps. Okay, you got to tell me more. What's step 1?
Well, remember how we were talking about those gamma waves right before those aha moments?
Yeah, the brain's high gear. Right?
Exactly. Just before that surge of insight, Beeman and Kunios noticed something else. A spike in alpha wave activity.
Alpha waves. Now, those are connected to relaxation, right?
Right, like when you're meditating or just about to drift off to sleep.
That kind of calm, focused state.
Exactly, that relaxed but alert state. And this is where it gets really interesting, because Steiner was talking about this too.
He was.
Yeah. He was saying how our minds need to step back from all the distractions around us to make room for those new, free ideas to come through.
He called it the power of thinking, right?
Exactly, the power of thinking. So Beeman and Cunha, they're saying we need to encourage those alpha brain waves, meditate, spend time in nature, things like that.
But Steiner, he had a different take, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Steiner thought it wasn't just about finding those relaxed alpha states through, external practices. He believed that it was the act of thinking itself, really focusing our thoughts,
Yeah.
engaging with an idea that caused this withdrawal from the everyday world, and that's what made space for true intuition.
So you're telling me just sitting down and really concentrating on something, like wrestling with a problem that can actually create the same kind of mental space as meditation.
That's exactly what Steiner was suggesting. And, this is where his ideas get really interesting because they kind of challenge those traditional ideas we have about mindfulness and meditation. It's not necessarily about quieting the mind completely, but learning how to direct it, with more intention.
So bringing this all back, can we actually train ourselves to have more freedom, like Steiner believed? Is modern neuroscience actually proving him right?
It's a fascinating question, isn't it? And the research seems to suggest it's possible. What's exciting is this isn't just some abstract philosophy anymore. We're actually starting to understand the mechanisms in the brain that make these experiences possible.
And that opens up some pretty amazing possibilities.
It does. It really does.
I mean, if we can learn to cultivate those aha moments, those flashes of intuition, who knows what we could achieve? Our decision-making, our relationships, even our creativity.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? What could we accomplish if we could tap into that wellspring of creativity and free will that seems to be within us all?
It's a pretty incredible thought.
Mm.
And you know what? I think this is just the beginning. We've uncovered some amazing connections today between Steiner's philosophy and what modern neuroscience is discovering. But there's so much more to explore. This whole idea that we can train our minds for greater freedom, to tap into that conceptual realm where those aha moments come from.
It's exciting stuff.
It really is. So until next time, keep those brains buzzing, keep asking those big questions, and most importantly, stay curious.